What? You don't want to go in the microwave? Okay. Hello, friends. Coda loves going in the cupboard. I just assumed he would enjoy the microwave as well. Good boy. Okay. Let's hope Bobby doesn't see this, okay? Let's hope Mama doesn't see that. Well, today I have yet to decide if I'm going to do Type R things or Evo 8 things. Yeah, Coda's hair on my nose. We did get a bunch of snow last night. I do need to get the snow tires on Bobby's Type R. And, wow, Coda, you are shedding hair. Just like me, losing all your hair. Imagine that. Must be something in the water, huh? So Bobby took the truck to her stand this morning, and I'm stuck with the Type R, which I'm very, very excited to shred that thing in all of our beautiful snow on her OEM summer tires. They're probably all seasons, but nonetheless, that is going to be her winter car. And the reason why she wants that to be her winter car is because, honestly, the whole reason that she did really want a hatchback, and I was thankfully able to find that red one, is because she's always making coffee stand runs, and she needed a ton of trunk space. The STI wasn't really working out all that well, so that is also the reason why she's going to be driving that thing in the winter, when she does have an Evo and an STI, which are of course both all-wheel drive. A Type R is going to do just fine with snow tires, and it has all the space in the world for all the milk that she needs to buy. It feels like every day. Now, of course, what would be the ultimate winter daily would be an all-wheel drive Type R. I've debated actually putting snow tires on that thing and driving it in the snow, because it'd be insane. Like, it'd be super cool. But I don't know if I want to just disregard all of the extremely hard effort and work we put into that car to enjoy it in the snow, because that's a lot of hours into making everything nice and shiny and like getting de-icer on everything. Like I've said before, if I had a skid plate on it and was able to protect everything in the bay, it'd be a different story. But then again, there's still everything like with the undercarriage and the rear end that is perfect. So I don't know, maybe one day. I do gotta remember, at the end of the day, they are just cars. They're meant to be driven, but it's just tough knowing that I have other, like, actually not nice cars, like restored, I guess, cars. They're still nice. Stuff like the truck, where I don't care if it gets dirty. I am still anxious as heck. I'm waiting on these damn blood results to see if my carnivore diet is doing literally anything, or if it's just making me eat a whole lot of eggs and steak and beef for nothing. I'm very, very curious to see if it's going to help at all with my issues. They're definitely going to come back today. It's just a matter of when. Now, what we have here for day 31 on this diet is not steak and eggs. We have eggs and sausage and some cheese. And then for lunch, I have produced 1 pound of ground turkey, 1.5 pounds of meat from a local farm. And of course, I'm not going to eat all this today, but I like to cook it all at once. We definitely got a little bit of snow last night. It's not much. It's like an inch. Sometimes an inch is a lot, though. Oh. Oops. Huh. I can see why Bobby did not want to drive this thing in the snow. This thing does not drive in the snow. We might need to put snows on it. Well, hopefully we can make it to the shop just fine. I think we'll be alright. I bet the main roads are probably pretty cleared off. But then again, Bobby had to call me at 4:30 in the morning, stuck in the truck on the hill by the house. And she didn't know how to put it in 4-wheel drive. Oh, Lord. Well, we may as well have fun. So traction control's going off. and I really wish we had a handbrake because I don't think I can really drift with an electric parking brake. Yeah, this is gonna be a long ride to the shop. What? I turned you off. You know, there's this tool. Let me start that off differently. There's this thing that humans deal with. It's called anxiety. And I have none right now, but I will when I end up in the ditch. I see anxiety and I see things like depression as a tool. Anxiety is a pretty simple one for me to figure out. And the way I look at it, and this will all make sense here in a couple seconds, but why I'm talking about this. But the way I look at it is it's a tool that your body or your mind is telling you that you're not doing something right. If you're always anxious about something, you should figure out what is causing that. For me, a large part of my anxiety, like, I feel like a lot of people overuse that term as well. Don't hate me for saying that, but I just feel like that's the truth. A lot of people say they have anxiety, they have depression, they have all these mental health issues when they're sitting on the couch all day and not doing dick with their life. So if that's you, do some shit with your life and it'll probably go away. I wonder if this is the hill that Bobby got stuck on. I'm gonna have to plan this one out. I don't think I'm gonna make it up this hill. I feel like that goon driving their freaking front wheel drive car with Summers on it. For me, a lot of my anxiety came from this YouTube channel. Like, for the last couple of years, I had a lot of anxiety from it because everything was fake. Now you probably hear that and you're like, Devin, what the hell? Now the content wasn't fake. I wasn't faking anything. But me as a person, like my personality on the channel was fake. It wasn't exactly who I am. And that caused me a shit ton of anxiety throughout the previous years of my life. And I feel like that's drastically reduced other than yesterday and today as I wait for my blood homie just blew a stop sign. As I wait for the blood results to come back, that shit gives me anxiety. But the channel anxiety has been drastically reduced within the last month or so because I just accepted that, you know, I'm not going to be this overly hyped, overly excited person that I'm trying to pretend to be when I'm not even remotely close to that in real life. And that helps a lot. It pretty much fixed all my issues with feeling anxious about content and feeling anxious about realistically life in general, because content is my life. Like, it's kind of funny, but my best friend is this piece of plastic and piece of glass called a camera that I talk to every single day. I spend more time with this unit than I do with a human being, which is kind of crazy. Like, literally my best friend is my camera. Depression as well. You're probably not doing enough with life, or you're not like exercising, or you're not being productive. Now, stress is something I have yet to figure out clearly. I think I'll get that resolved one day, but that's for a future. Devin apparently is to be stress-free. I'm not sure how that's ever going to be possible. But yeah, I figured I'd talk about that this morning real quick. You know, I do read a lot of comments. I know I don't respond to comments, really. I do here and there, but I do read the majority of comments, and I have seen the people that absolutely love the new style of content, the real Devin. And there's some people that don't like it. And honestly, another thing I've learned throughout 29 years of life is if you try to go through life trying to please every single human, you are going to be freaking miserable, and you are going to be displeased with yourself. You can only please realistically a small percentage of the people. Everyone else that don't like you, cool. They can go somewhere else. That's fine. Not everyone's gonna like your personality. Not everyone's gonna be able to relate to the things that you go through. But if you can be your true self, I guess this is mostly pertaining to people who are content creators like myself or social media influencers. Just be yourself. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. Well, just got to the shop, opened my email, and I have an email notification. Your lab test results are ready. I know a lot of you guys probably don't really care, but I care. I'm so curious. Now this is a time where it's okay to have a little bit of anxiety going on. If my platelets are above 40,000, it definitely did something. Okay, well that's annoying. Sometimes when I get blood work done, platelets for some reason don't show up on the report. I don't know if there's not enough to even scan or what is going on. So I pulled up the report on the laptop, and under the platelet section it says unable to perform accurate platelet count due to aggregation of the platelets. I don't know what that means, and it's showed that probably like 3 times in the last year. That's annoying. I'm about to go get my blood drawn again. The overwhelmingly most common reason for an abnormal result on a CBC, which is a complete blood something, I forgot what it means, is improper blood drawing or the sample clotting in the tube. Well, boys, I could spend the day being annoyed and frustrated and quite frankly upset, or I can just continue and move on. And later on, either today or tomorrow, go get it redone. Go get my blood work redone and see what happens. I've decided though, I am not working on the Evo today. And that excites me. I love working on the Evo and I don't know why I'm yelling, but I'm super excited to make a little bit of progress and kind of just tie up loose ends on the all-wheel drive Civic Type R. A couple things to fix. Something to upgrade. A couple things to upgrade if I'm being honest. And I don't know if I can get all this done in one single day or if it's going to be a multiple day project. But I guess we'll see. Instead of finagling around for a year because that car's got to go on the lift and I can't really push around all that well myself, I'm just going to get a jump pack on it and fire her up. Plus I want to show you guys what this thing's doing and why we need to fix it. My battery is at 3 volts. 3 volts, boys, 3 volts. Why? She still runs well. Fired right up. The alternator's working because even at the battery at 3 volts, the Hall Tech is showing the battery's at 13 volts while it's running. So I don't think it's an alternator problem. Let's go on a quick drive so I can show you guys what this thing is doing with the ignition system. Also, we may as well see if this all-wheel drive system works well in the winter, in the snow. Watch me just turn this into my freaking winter daily. I did not expect it to hook up that good. This is kind of funny. I really need a freaking window mount for my camera. I could literally daily this thing year round. Feels like I'm in an Evo. This is surreal. Okay, ignition issue. If we try to drive this thing, right around 42 to 4,500 RPM, it does that. And if there was a check engine light for a cam, crank, sync error, or something along those lines. So like I've said in the past, I just believe that is a sensor issue. It could be a wiring issue as well, but I do believe it is probably just a faulty sensor. We're running an O'Reilly's crank sensor on it, so that's the first thing I'm gonna do. But before I do that, let's get this thing in the shop and give her a quick bath. She's filthy. There is some other things on this car that we do need to fix eventually. No real major problems to report, but just small annoyances that I would like to take care of. Man, I love foam. So nice to use. Now, of course, we have the built T-case we need to install. Not only that, we have the issue of the battery keeps draining. Over maybe a week's period of time, it'll go from a proper voltage to down to like 4 volts, as you guys just saw. So we have some sort of battery drainage issue going on, and then the wheel hop issue, which is breaking the T-cases. And then the third brake light, or the brake lights are always on. So those are the main things that I want to fix. Of course, starting with the ignition sync issue and the battery voltage. The T-case, I might put off till tomorrow if I don't have time, but I just have a feeling this battery voltage issue is going to be an extensive diagnostic process. We got the old girl cleaned up, looking nice and beautiful again. It was a sad sight looking at it after all that work we put into it, and it was just absolutely filthy. The struggles of trying to keep your bay nice too. Get a little bit of water in there. And of course, I'm a nerd about my cars, so I have to go clean it. Let's call that a day. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just a good visual inspection of the sensors. I feel like that's always a good place to start. Start easy. I've definitely learned this over the years. If you guys have been watching the channel for any sort of duration, you would know I love to start with the hardest things possible first and then work backwards, but it's not a smart move. So let's pop the crank sensor out. I have a feeling it's just a crank sensor gone bad because it's not OEM. The cams are OEM. I really want, and we're gonna do it one day, but to get the factory start button to work, we're gonna do it someday. I'm just, obviously I got other more important things going on right now with the Evo. Well, visually, it looks beautiful. Of course, I was a little bit worried that maybe something is banging around inside the engine and took out the crank sensor, but that doesn't appear to be the case. It could still be bad, of course, but I'm betting, it could still be bad. Let's pull the intake and exhaust cam sensors off and see if those look fine. Thankfully, these guys are quite a bit easier to access. Also make sure the wiring looks good, which it does. It's so crazy the amount of obstacles we've had to overcome with this car. Just thinking back as I'm working on it right now, like so many things. The cooling system issues, the brake system issues, trying to get all-wheel drive parts to fit. Exhaust sensors off. I don't see anything abnormal. Wasn't expecting to see anything abnormal. Intake is off. Everything looks fine. Okay, now what? I think the easiest, quickest, probably the cheapest thing to try real quick is just go buy another crank sensor. I mean, it's not cheap, it's $100, but easy. Buy another crank sensor and see if that'll take care of our issue. If that doesn't, then maybe I'll try new cam sensors. And at the same time, I'm gonna go ahead and get my blood work redone again. If it doesn't read this time, I think I just have no platelets left to even read. It's like oil pressure, you know? When you ain't got none, it doesn't read. Just got a call. The cylinder head for the Evo 8 project is all finished up. So we last beaded it there at the shop and Cerakoted it. And then I really wanted it cleaned and then resurfaced. So I dropped it off at the local head shop. So that was like the last thing that we needed to get the engine built for the 8 project. All the freaking errands this afternoon. Next up, crank sensor should be there at the parts store, and back to the shop to dick around on the Type R. I'm half tempted just to build the Evo motor if I'm being completely frank. I added in some carbs. First carbs in like 31 days. Bobby put this is gonna sound really, really weird, but Bobby put a dash of honey in my coffee. So it was probably like 10 carbs worth of honey. Surprisingly, it's really, really good. I got my blood drawn again. And hopefully this time around, it actually tells me what my platelet levels are at. Either way, I don't care. If they're high, if they're higher, I'm gonna be very, very excited. But even if they're low, it's like, okay, at least I tried. I know the carnivore diet didn't fix the problem, and I can move on knowing I tried. Holy smokes. Oh ho 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 ho. Hopefully this fixes our issue. Finagle this little girl back in. Car's back together. Let's fire her up. I forgot how big of a pile that Rock Auto starter is. Shout out to Rock Auto for the amazing product. I'm kidding. I know you guys didn't make them. But anyways, car's back together. I'm gonna let it warm up right quick. Plug in, pull up Haltech NSP, and it was doing the same issue, even just stationary. If we would rev it, if we try to rev it at all, right at 40 something hundred, it would become unsynced somehow. These coolant temps up a bit, so I don't feel bad revving her. Right away. Come on, Honda. Why are you doing this to me? I got an idea. I'm gonna try something real quick. I'm gonna reload the map onto the ECU. Maybe the map got corrupted. I don't know. I'm just guessing at this point. I doubt this will fix it, but I've been wrong before. Well, somehow it appears that the map got corrupted. I'm not sure if I tried to update the system, and I don't know. Either way, it appears that the issue is now fixed. I do need to go drive the car, but we are getting slammed with snow right now. So in the meantime, while it's still in the shop and it's nice and warm in here, let's go ahead and knock out, it's called a parasitic draw test. So this thing keeps, like I said earlier, keeps killing the battery over a few days. And what a parasitic draw test does is it's going to tell us whether or not this car has something, like some computer is turned on while the car is sitting, or see if it's pulling any amperage, for lack of a better way of explaining. Now, it's pretty easy to do. What you're going to do is you take your voltmeter. We're going to put it on the amperage setting. Okay. So right now we have it on the 10 amp setting. And now we're going to go ahead and connect our battery. I had it on the charger. And we're going to put this in line with the negative battery terminal, or the negative, I guess, the grounding circuit of the car. The most draw you want to see, if I'm not mistaken, is around like 40 or 50 milliamps. So if we see any sort of amperage on the 10 amp setting, it means we got a problem. So just take one of the leads, put it on the negative terminal, the other lead, put it on the cable, and just like I suspected, we have a parasitic draw of 3.72 amps. No wonder why this thing keeps killing batteries. So we need to figure out why, because that's a lot. That is a whole lot. Easiest way to figure out where the draw is coming from is to go ahead and start pulling fuses until our meter shows none. Zero. We want as close to zero, of course, when the car's off as possible. Unfortunately, my battery is back here, and all the fuse boxes are up front. One's underneath the front bumper because we did the fuse box relocation, and one's in the cabin. So it's going to be a pain, but it's got to be done. Well, thankfully, we have Bobby's Type R here to do some comparisons. And I just did some comparisons, and it confused me even more, because if I do a parasitic draw test on her car the same exact way, with the hatch open, with that latch simulated closed to make sure the light goes off, it draws the same exact amount of amperage, which apparently, according to the internet, is way more than it should be. But it's weird that her car does it the same amount as this car. And of course I did that after pulling every single fuse on this whole entire car. So I'm gonna start from scratch. I'm gonna run in and drop this battery off. Maybe the battery's just shot. I'm gonna have it tested because I cannot test it here. Hopefully this battery is just no good. And I don't have some weird wiring gremlins with this car. Battery is definitely not that old either. It's a pretty nice Superstart Platinum AGM. Okay, I dropped the battery off. They said it's gonna be about an hour before it's done being tested. So in the meantime, I'm trying to fix this brake lights always on issue. The first thing I'm trying is a brake switch off of Bobby's car. And let's see if this fixes it. That would be nice. Start easy, go hard. Why would it be stuck on all the time? Okay. Well, that's not fixing it. So when the switch is depressed, it should turn the lights off. And then when the switch comes out, the lights should come on. So if it's not that, it makes me feel like it's probably something wiring related. Or fuse. What about would a blown fuse keep the light on? It very well could. But I just checked every single fuse on the whole entire car, trying to figure out the parasitic draw issue, and I didn't see any blown fuses. I'm guessing it's wiring. Okay, I made progress. I think this is going to be more complicated than I thought. So as of right now, the car is on, the ignition's on, simulating that it's running. As you can see, no matter what, the brake lights are on. Now when the car is off, okay, and we put the lights on, there's lights on with the brake pedal not pushed, brake pedal pushed. So what that tells me is we got a problem. And the problem is, I'm assuming some sort of computer, maybe it's the ECU, needs an RPM signal. Now I could just be overthinking this, but I feel like the ECU is needing an RPM signal to tell the VSA that the car is running so that it doesn't act up. That sounds complicated, but at least I made some progress. So I'm trying my hand at checking out the diagram, trying to figure out what exactly could be going on. So this is the brake light diagram. I use Identifix for my diagrams. So here we have the brake pedal position switch. So there's 4 wires that come out of it. One goes to the fuse box, which is fuse 21. I checked that. That one is good. One wire, the brown wire, goes to the PCM, which I think that is where the source of our problems are coming from. One goes to the underhood fuse relay box, a white wire, and then the other side goes to the relay circuit board, body control module, under dash fuse relay box again, and then back to the brake lights. So I'm assuming that when the car is not running, everything's working fine. We already verified that. And as soon as the ignition's on and the car is running, this brown wire isn't getting the signal it needs. It's the only assumption that I can make. So I don't know if I need to supply power to this brown wire or maybe supply ground to this brown wire. Either way, I think the brown wire is causing our issues. And I could be wrong. I could be wrong about all this. I'm just trying to get better at wiring, but this is a confusing one, being that it's like intermittent, kind of. Like when the ignition's off, it's fine. Ignition's on, it's not fine. That's making it a little bit more complicated in my head.
When the ignition is off, it works perfectly fine as it should. Mm-hmm. That just kind of proves it. The PCM, the wire that goes to the computer for the brake, is just an input. The PCM doesn't send a signal to the brakes whatsoever. That's actually the PCM sending a signal to the PCM saying, hey, brakes are applied, just so the computer, knows, hey, brakes are being applied, whether it has to change any conditions and stuff, like cruise control or something like that,
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. Wiring is so tough, man. I don't know how you do it.
I think when you look at it, it's just a lot tougher than it looks. But once you just look at it slowly, it makes pretty good sense. And under the left side end of the dashboard, there's another fuse number 5, which is a 10 amp. Yeah, fuse 5, 10 amp.
Okay. Well, apparently that just fixed the problem. With the fuse out, they're off. When I hit the brake lights, they come on. My man Nick, I know you're probably watching this video. you saved the day. We got it fixed by pulling a fuse, and I'll explain here in a second why pulling the fuse fixed the issue. So there it is, with the brake pedal not pressed, lights still on, hit the brake pedal, everything works like it should. Sweet. Now, here's why, in Nick's description as to why it works, because I don't understand wiring like this dude does. The reason pulling fuse number 5 from underneath the dash fixed the issue is because fuse 5 also controls, I believe it was the radar and the camera system, which this car is a 2021, so it does have. We are not using any of that. The car does not have a radar in it. And so, being that the radar is missing, the fuse also has to be missing for the brake lights to not always be on. A little bit confusing. New cars are crazy. I'm thankful I have my man Nick to help me out. Now I'm gonna go pick up the battery and see if it was good or if it was bad. If it's bad, that's good news. If it's good, I'm wondering if that fuse 5, the brake lights staying on all the time, has anything to do with the battery drainage issue. Now, of course, the brake lights weren't on when the ignition was off, but maybe some sort of computer or control module was stuck on. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I just got back with the battery in hand. If you take a look at the label, this battery tested out good. So I'm gonna go ahead and get it installed back in the car. I just have a weird feeling that the brake lights and this battery issue are related. They very well could not be, but I'm not gonna continue diagnosing something if I feel like it might already be fixed. Realistically, I could let it sit overnight. I'm gonna check the exact voltage, write it down on the whiteboard tonight, and then let it sit overnight, and tomorrow we can check it and to see if it dropped at all. Unfortunately, I don't have enough time to knock out this T-case, but what I do have enough time for tonight is to hopefully fix the throttle pedal. So we had to build our own custom, well, I didn't build it. It's a 350Z throttle pedal, but I had to do all the mounting brackets and everything for the drive-by-wire system on the car. And if you take a look, I'm looking at it right now, it's very clear and obvious to see why. I do not like it whatsoever. When you're trying to haul ass, but you're on the brakes and you gotta hit the gas, as you can see, even in my really, really nice shoes, this gas pedal is sitting way too high. Now, if we actually take a look at a stock Type R, I'd be interested to show you guys and see for myself if it's level or if it sits lower. If I'm not mistaken, it sits lower than the other two pedals. Well, it's very, very dark in here, but it is about a ½ inch lower than the other two pedals. So I need to go ahead and fix that. I'm gonna put this thing in the vise and just bend it enough until I like where it sits. That's the nice thing about that 350Z pedal, is it's just a little, not very thick or steel rod, so they do bend pretty easy. If I'm being honest, I feel like, for me at least, this kind of stuff is the harder parts of the builds, where you have to go through and just fix all the little annoying things. As you can see, it bends quite easily. All right, the pedal is bent much better than it was. It looks like it's a little bit low, but let's just see how it feels, because at the end of the day, isn't that all that matters for a fuel pedal, for a gas pedal? So we're cruising, hit the brakes. Now, of course, I want it to feel as factory as possible. Call that a day. Next on the list. Okay, I'm gonna fire this thing up, make sure the brake lights actually work while it's running. I don't know why they wouldn't. And then I also want to simulate like it's driving and make sure our ignition sync error is truly, truly fixed. Well, it looks like everything is working fine back there. If we can get past 4,000 RPM, that means the issue is fixed. This drivetrain is so loud on this car. It's ridiculous. All right, so moving on, we are going to attempt, with the help of Nick, who's the master behind getting the brake light issue fixed, we are going to attempt to get the factory start button to work. So as of right now, here's how you start the car. So you have to click the button once, click the button again, and then, as you can hear, the fuel pump's prime. Everything comes on. The cluster comes on, the radio. From there, we have the starter switch on this side. Which, of course, that works. But I really, really, really would love to have the stock starter button to work. So what you would do is you get in the car, depress the clutch, hit the button once, and it goes rum, 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 rum. And you go about your day. So we're going back and forth right now, and he's going to tell me the things to check. I really wish I just knew how to do this stuff myself, but man, oh man, I've looked at the diagram, and I cannot figure it out. So apparently, I mean, you guys probably heard on the phone, it sounds like he's the one who did the wiring on this car at Honda. So I'm hoping with the help of my man Nick, we can get that to work. And if we can get that to work, there is other things in the future we're also going to try. For example, the factory AC controls. I'm highly debating going back to a factory cluster, which would involve getting the factory coolant temp, RPM, speed, and fuel level to work. And I think that's about it. So we'll see what he says, man. I'm super excited, and I'll keep you guys posted as we go. Now I do know I did cut the wiring for the clutch switch when I forget what I was doing and why I cut it, but for the factory start button to work, I do know we need that connected. So I'm just gonna take care of this now so I don't forget later and wonder why nothing's working. Okay, that's taken care of. Now he said he's gonna kind of give me a step-by-step thing. Oh boy, this is gonna get complicated. Go to the stock ECM, 96 pin, 95 pin. Okay. So here's what we're gonna do. So this here is our factory ECM. It controls the engine, factory ECU. Of course, this car is running a standalone. We're running a Haltech 2500 Elite. We needed the stock ECM in this car to use either the e-brake to get the electric parking brake to work, or the hatch, one of the two. Anyways, that's why it's here, okay? So in this plug-in right here, we're gonna go to pin 22, and we're gonna cut the yellow wire, and we're gonna ground both ends. I actually want this thing more factory than that. I'm gonna have the factory clutch switch still working, like we connected earlier. So what I just did, cutting wire 22 and grounding it, there's no need. It's the same concept as just pressing the clutch. So that is what we are going to do. OEM Plus. Just went through and checked a bunch of power and ground signals on this little relay box here. It's not even an actual relay, it's just a box with a bunch of wires, and apparently relays are built in. New car things. We're down to, apparently the car needs a neutral safety sensor. It's not a neutral switch like automatic has, but if we take a look at this diagram right here, it's number 18 on the schematic for the Type R. Now that's not a big deal, but to get it off the red car, we do have to pull off quite a bit of things to access it, and then from there we can move on. But unfortunately, it's way too freaking late. I really wanted to get this sorted out tonight. We made a ton of progress, but I gotta stop here. One thing I am gonna check real quick though before we head out, 11.92. Overall, I'm pretty hyped with the progress that we did make today on the Type R. I was hoping it would only be a one-day thing for these random shenanigans, and then of course another day to get the T-case in, build the traction bar, and do the compliance bushings and all that stuff. But of course, as always, things don't always go right to plan. I knew this starting circuit was gonna be a bit of a tricky situation, but honestly, I wasn't even planning on doing that today. We just had a little bit of time left at the end of the day, and we got close. I feel like we're getting close with a couple more hours, most likely, of diagnosing and getting that random neutral sensor on. We should hopefully have the OEM start button working. This is a carbohydrate meal. Bobby has prescribed to me for the night. I said I was going to do the carnivore diet for 30 days. It's day 31. Or maybe even 32. No, for real though, like I said earlier, whether the results come back and it helps, which obviously is the goal, that's cool. I just want to know either way, you know? I'm talking to you, but you're not here, so they don't know who I'm talking to. Bobby, come here.
I'm listening. I'm your audience.
Get your ass over here, bison boy. Bobby has bison pajamas on. My taste buds are gonna be like tripping out. It makes you want to cry.
What do you think?
This is some homemade pizza that Bobby makes. It's the best pizza that you can possibly eat. I would love for her to tell you what's on it, but she doesn't want to be on camera. So just know that it's quite healthy and it tastes amazing. We have more findings on the Type R. After I shut down the camera, we did a little bit more testing, and this is a really good reason. Really good reason for having two Type Rs. One that's heavily modified and one that's stock. Because I can take Bobby's car, compare and contrast. So what we thought earlier, the Type R, the all-wheel drive Type R needed the neutral safety sensor, it's called, to enable the starting circuit to work. That is not the case. Because if you go on Bobby's car, which I did all this, I should have recorded it, but I didn't. Go on Bobby's car and unplug the 92-pin connector from the ECU, which controls like the injectors, the coils. It's the engine harness. And that is also the neutral safety switch harness. That sensor is on that harness. But if you unplug it, her car will still turn over and crank, but it won't start, obviously. So we ruled that out. And then Nick called me and he's like, "Didn't you replace the ABS pump on that car?" And I was like, "I did." I was pulling it in the shop one day when it was getting built, and the car fell on the ABS pump and destroyed it, so we had to replace it. And so he's like, "Go to Bobby's car, unplug the ABS pump, and see if it'll crank at all." And sure enough, we go to Bobby's car, unplug the ABS pump, and it doesn't crank. And then we went to program, I think is the proper term, my ABS pump, because I replaced it with another used one, and it needs to be like matched to the VIN. I went to do that and it wasn't reading for some reason. He literally just texted me and see what he says. And it's throwing 4 ABS codes, and he just gave me a whole long laundry list of things to do. So basically the ABS pump needs to be re-VINed or reprogrammed to the proper VIN of the car. It's all integrated, like all this new stuff bullshit is on this car. And then after that is fixed, listen, Bobby, the factory start button should work.
I hate the other one.
And I fixed the gas pedal today.
Good.
And I fixed the brake light being stuck on.
Good.
And I got it running right. So that's the update. I'm going to eat my pizza and sour cream. It's a very odd combo, but it's almost as weird as honey and coffee. Tomorrow, hopefully I can get the starting circuit to work. I mean, if I can't, it's not a big deal. Nick is confident, like, eventually we can get it figured out. So that is exciting. Okay, goodbye. Someone, I think a couple of people thought the other day you walked behind my camera naked. Because I was, like, in there filming, and you walked back here. You had a shirt on that was, like, skin color shirt. And it literally, because it, obviously it's focused on me, so everything in the background's blurry. And you're walking like this. It literally looks like you're just completely naked.
Oh my
But I can assure you guys, she definitely was not. And if she was, why would I put that on the internet? That'd be a little bit weird. Goodbye.